Hey, I'm Julie, and today we're talking about the burnout signs that you've probably been calling strengths. Now, maybe you have that inability to switch off. Maybe that's something that's been an issue for you all your life. But this is what we're going to talk about in today's show. So let's get ready. Okay. So, as I said, I'm Julie, and today we're talking about the burnout signs you've probably been calling strengths. The inability to switch off, the pride in being the one everyone relies on, the compulsion to keep going when the rest is right there. Now, these aren't personality traits, they're warning signs. And the reason you just rest more has never worked for you because your nervous system doesn't know how to be safe without performing. And by the end of this show, you'll know exactly which one, so your so-called strengths are costing you. And you'll have something you can actually use to start changing it. So hello and welcome to my show. It's a real privilege to be here with you all today. And we're here every week, every Wednesday, as you know, at 11:30. Now, if you're watching this live, please join me and drop any comments you have in the chat. And if you're watching this on replay, do hashtag replay. And I promise I will do my best to go back and look at them for you. So yeah, please join me because it can be quite lonely up here. Excuse me, I've got a very croaky voice today, so I do apologise in advance if I'm a bit right. Well, what we're going to be doing in today's show, okay, we're going to be looking at the burnout signs, high performers mistake for strengths, and why rest keeps failing, and what we're going to do instead. Now, these are some of my favourite topics, right? Because if you don't know, I spent 35 years in the corporate world, so I'm not talking to you out of my backside on these topics. I'm talking to you from experience, but also with the new world that I know now about how the mind and body is connected, right? So does this make me authority? I don't know everything. Of course I don't, but I do know what it feels like to be in your position, but I also know how you can change it and how to unravel it really and how it works underneath, right? So let's look at what I would say would be one of the first frustrations. Now, this will be, I can't switch off even when I want to, right? Now, let's be honest, there's a lot of guilt here, isn't there? There's a lot of guilt around maybe leaving the office on time. And by on time, we mean like our contracted hours, right? There's that feeling of, feeling uncomfortable. What are other people thinking about you? Now, I can remember feeling this a lot. And it was like, okay, well, what if I stay a little bit longer? I could send that email a bit later. I mean, working from home made it a little bit easier, I suppose, because you wasn't necessarily have all that journey home and stuff like that. But just send that email at 7 or 8 o'clock, right? Because that would look good, wouldn't it? Who knows? And this will resonate for any parents out there as well. I struggled also from guilt, right? So I couldn't switch off at work. I couldn't switch off at home because when I had my son, I felt guilty that I was leaving him at home, right? I felt guilty leaving work on time. And it was really difficult to get that level right because I also felt guilty when I was at work, when I was actually enjoying my time being at work and not being at home, right? So there's so many things that are running through your head and through your body. But it's actually our nervous system that's actually playing a role in all of this. But I didn't know that then, and maybe you don't understand that either. But I can remember, I wanted to get home. I left at 5. I worked in London at the time, so it was like an hour and 3/4 journey home. So it was still quite late when I got home, but that was my time with Josh. That was my time. Yes, I was exhausted a lot of the time, but that didn't matter. But on the way home, I had to try and leave the guilt of leaving the office on time because I used to feel eyes bearing in the back of my head. Oh, she's going home again. But actually, looking back on it now, I just think, well, actually, you should be using me as an inspiration because that's what you should be doing, right? So there's a lot of guilt, right, that hangs in this. But it's a reason why we can't switch off as well. And another brilliant example of not being able to switch off is like, when you book this holiday, it might be a week, it might be 2, it might be, one of those dream holidays that you wanted for a long time. But, if you're gone for a week, for example, you've got all that stress or build up. We got it for both, actually. Stress and that build up. Got to get this done before I go. There's so much stress, isn't there, around getting ready to go on holiday and making sure all the ducks are aligned. You've handed over and everything else. And then, of course, you've got all that stress at home of, oh my God, all the packing. And have you sorted this out? Have you done this? Have you done that? Cancel the papers or whatever it is you need to do. I was going to say cancel the meal, but I'm not sure many people do that anymore, do they? But that could be a thing, right? Sorting your pets out, so many things to do, right? So actually going on holiday is actually quite stressful, really. And then you get there, right? Day 1, day 2, you're still trying to calm down. You're still trying to wind down. By about day 3, maybe your body's starting to relax a little bit, starting to feel a little bit calmer. You're getting into your book. Maybe it's not that calm if you've got young children and you're running around after them, but nevertheless, you're starting to enjoy it, right? Maybe you've got lovely sunshine, whatever it is that you've chosen. Then midway comes, and then that second part of the holiday seems to be disappearing really, really fast. And then you start thinking, oh my God, we've got to do all this traveling home again now. And oh my God, and then it gets nearer to got to go back to work, right? So actually, when you think about it, it's only like the middle part of that holiday that you're actually benefiting from, that your body actually calming down. And sometimes, and you can get sick, can't you? Because your body's like starting to relax and it's like, oh, this is a bit weird. And then sometimes that sickness that you've been trying to fight off sort of comes into fruition, and maybe that even ruins your holiday. But the point is that inability to switch off, right? That's one of the number one frustration, I would say. Number 2 is around you're exhausted, but you keep going. Now, it might be you got 8 hours sleep last night. Maybe you only got 2. Maybe you was awake at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You just couldn't get to sleep because your mind couldn't shut down. But either way, you're exhausted, right? You can have all that sleep and still wake up feeling really exhausted. But how can you start calming down? Because your body is just on fire still, if you like. The nervous system is going, no, we're too busy. We can't slow down, right? And I always remember, and I might have even told you this before, I can't remember, but when I was at work, I always tried to go to the gym, and lunchtime was my time to do it. And I remember going to yoga, and I quite like yoga. I didn't really understand it in the same way I do now. It's a form of meditation. It's a great way to strengthen your body, but it's the whole mind-body connection. But I didn't really understand that. I just thought it was just something else that I could do. But I did one called yin yoga. Now, yin yoga is a little bit different because it's you do maybe half a dozen stretches throughout the whole class, but you're doing them from an intense point of view for maybe 5 minutes each time or something like that. And I can honestly remember doing that thinking, what a bloody waste of time. I could have been in the gym, I could have been on a treadmill, or I could have gone to an aerobics class. What am I doing? I'm just laying here. I mean, how bad's that, right? But now I understand that was so powerful for me. If I'd just let it, I didn't, because I wouldn't turn my brain off. But if I had and just accepted, you know what, Julie, this is your time. I want you to chill. I want your mind and body to calm down. But I didn't, because it was still firing, and I was just telling myself what a waste of time this was, right? So I just couldn't relax. Weekends, forget it. Weekends were for, doing all the housework, doing all the shopping, running around with the kids, doing whatever it is you need to do, running around, planning things, relaxing. Don't be so ridiculous. Maybe on a Sunday afternoon, if I've done everything and ticked everything off my checklist, I might allow myself an hour or so to read a book or start reading the book or something like that. But otherwise, I just thought, I haven't got time for this. And it's actually quite funny. Well, not funny, but when I do all the prep for these shows, it just brings it all back to me, because that version of me is very different to the version of me now, because I've worked on my identity. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are elements of that are still Julie, but nowhere near in the way that they used to be. And I'm quite proud of that. There's always work to be done, right? But I mean, is any of this resonating with anyone? If it is, please just drop me a message. I mean, This is why I've chosen you guys as my audience, because I can so resonate. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not talking out my backside with this. I've actually been there, done it, and bought the t-shirt, right? So now I'm just trying to share with you my experiences, but obviously with the flip part that's coming in a little while of, well, this is what it should be like. This, we can change, right? So let's look at the third frustration. The usual advice doesn't stick. Well, what does that mean? Right? That might be that, you've tried setting boundaries, you've tried delegating, you've even read the books, you've listened to the podcast, you've done all the things that you think you need to do, but you're still stuck in the same place. You're still pushing and wondering why nothing's actually changing. Now, before we move on, I think it's time to address the elephant in the room here. It's also a strong possibility that maybe you are a control freak. Now, I can say that with an open heart because I am. I'm not as bad as I used to be. But underneath all of that, though, control means that fear is the underlying factor. All right. So there's so much going on inside that until you start looking at this, you don't really understand it, right? Or maybe you do. I don't want to belittle anything that you need to know, but I didn't back then. So out of all those frustrations, let me just highlight them again for you, because I do appreciate I've talked a lot. Frustration number 1, you can't switch off even when you want to. Frustration number 2, you're exhausted, but you keep going anyway. And frustration number 3, the usual advice doesn't stick. So let's have a quick look. Nothing in the chat so far, but do put something in there. Let me know what resonates. Okay. So let's have a look at some of the signals that we're sending, right? So the behaviours that you've been rewarded for your entire career are actually the same ones that are costing you, right? So the things that you've kind of proud of, if you like, of the things that you've achieved, but the way you've done it are actually kind of backfiring a little bit, right? Because if you're the person, for example, that everyone depends on, maybe you never fully switch off, you feel uncomfortable when doing nothing, and you need to be productive all the time to feel calm. Again, let me know if that resonates. So we would call those our strengths, all right? Why wouldn't we, right? Because maybe you've got promoted because of them. Maybe you got a new career out of them being that. Maybe you built your entire reputation around them. But here's what I want you to understand. They are signals, all right? Now, your body has been whispering, or maybe it's been doing more than whispering. Maybe it has been screaming at you, but you've not been listening, right? And you've not realised. And this is really, really common in high performers, right? Because you are exceptionally good at ignoring whispers or shouts, because overfunctioning becomes normal, right? It's in your subconscious programming. It's what you do. So here's what I'm going to share with you today, okay? It's going to be a way that you could recognise these signals, all right? Because they have been a bit misleading and you've been misreading them. So we're going to have a look at see if you can identify when you're doing it and see if we can start getting that acknowledgement really and start changing the way that you do things, all right? Now, as always, I'm going to explain it to you. So let's go back to basics, right? So the reason that we feel a threat is because of your sense of safety, right? You got wired to constantly perform a long time ago. Remember, this is all in your identity. Now, your nervous system might have learned early on in those early years that to be useful made you feel safe, all right? Maybe it meant that you felt loved. Maybe being capable equaled being worthy. All right, these are all beliefs that we all come up with. And remember, 0 to 7, we haven't really got a lot of logic either, or no logic. It's slowly starting to grow after that. But we're creating beliefs about ourselves with no logic. So when things happen, that belief is locked in, and that's who we are, and that starts being our identity as we get older. So what does that mean? Well, without even realizing it, you built that identity around maybe being an achiever, maybe being the responsible one, maybe being the strong one, maybe all of them, right? Maybe you're the one that holds everything together, that everyone comes to when they need things sorted, right? Now, as a result of that, we start bringing in those controls in as well, right? So, and this is my experience, right? I would say things like, well, if I don't do it, it won't get done. Well, if I don't do it, it won't get done my way, or it won't get done in the timescales that I want it to. Because there's nothing more annoying, is there, than you give someone a task. Have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? No, I haven't done it yet. Well, in the end, you just think, oh, just give us it here and I'll do it myself. But that is the element of control, all right? And remember, that is fear-based. And if you look at the word fear, that spells out false evidence appearing real. So our nervous system doesn't feel safe. And now we're kind of thinking, well, if I don't do it, what's going to happen? Oh, it's not going to get done. And if it doesn't get done, what's this going to do? And and you start overthinking everything. So you end up doing it yourself. All right? But that's not helpful, is it? And here's something that's a little bit of a fun fact. Control often looks responsible on the outside, but underneath it is fear. Now, like I said, fear is about control. And I've done many fears of flying, for example, and actually the underlying issue is nothing to do with flying. It's actually to do with control. Not being in control of that big tin thing with wings. It's about not being in control any aspect of your life. I've had clients that have gone back to their childhood, and they were waiting for their dad to come home, and they had all that fear of not being safe because dad wasn't going home, and that all impacted into fear of flying. Bit of a digression there, but my point is these things, these beliefs that are going on in our identity come out in different ways that we might not expect it to. Now, here's something else I want you to really think about, right? If you're the person that's saying those things, like, oh God, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done, and all that kind of stuff, how does that look to other people? So when we constantly take over and rescue and control or carry everything, we can unintentionally stop other people from growing too. And that might be where you learnt it from, right? We learn things from our caregivers and people around us. So if your caregiver was that person that, didn't let you have that control, maybe you grew up saying, well, whatever I do won't be good enough anyway, or what's the point of trying, or they'll just redo it. So I want you just to take a moment just to think about, what message are you sending maybe to your children, maybe to the people around you, when you're being that person that wants to be in control, who doesn't want to let go, who doesn't want to calm down, who doesn't want to stop. It's quite frightening actually when you think about it, because you're not empowering them, are you? And if you're the sort of person with young children, or well, particularly young children obviously because they're very vulnerable, but as they get older, if you try to micromanage them all the time and do things for them all the time and don't let them do things and make their own mistakes, you're not empowering them, right? Now, as a mother and a stepmom as well, I probably was a lot worse at doing that before, but then I kind of started to learn about all of this stuff, and I have changed the way I've been with them. And actually they're both traveling the world, living their best lives. And as much as that's hard because they're not here, but actually I feel super proud of them both, because we've empowered them to have the confidence to go out there and live their best lives doing what it is they wanted to do, and not really controlling them. So it is a very fine line, but we do have to start bringing awareness to what's going on. And if you're watching this and listening to this and resonating to this, maybe you're the one that stops this cycle. Maybe you're the one that becomes brave and starts changing the way that you behave. And then once you start doing that and see the changes, then you can start sharing that new knowledge, so that you don't come across as that one that's always stressed, that one that's always maybe angry, right? Because you're so stressed, because you're not in control, or you want to be in control, whatever it is. Maybe just stop for a moment and just think, actually, that is me, and I can change this cycle. And you don't maybe want your children following in the same suit, or all of this stuff impacts work, but it also impacts our personal lives as well. Impacts relationships. Maybe you get annoyed because your partner doesn't pull their weight, but maybe they don't pull their weight because whatever they do is not good enough, or whatever they do, you're not doing it quick enough. So you do have to be careful, that we don't kind of impact people to not be the person that they should be and deserve to be as well. I know you can't be responsible for everybody else, but you can be responsible for your own behaviour, so that the learned behaviour that they are learning is really positive, and it's really empowering, and really, what you want them to be learning from you, not the negative things. So I want you to remember that you might well be exhausted, but it doesn't make you weak. You're exhausted because your entire system has been working overtime to protect an identity that says you can't stop. Now, I like an analogy. I have my tree that I always show you. I'm going to show you that again now, actually, because I'm going to show you in a slightly different way, but the same, if that makes sense. Probably not. So if you think of this tree, right, you see all the branches, the leaves, the impressive growth around it, all right? It's a really strong tree. That's your output, your achievements, your reputation. But if you think about the roots, right, we've all discussed before that that's where your beliefs are, your trapped feelings, your emotions, your memories, everything are trapped in the root, aka your subconscious mind, right? And your roots are all tangled up in beliefs like, maybe it's like, I'm only valuable if I'm producing, or if I stop, everything falls apart. Now, the tree's going to struggle no matter what, right? Now, if you want your tree to grow and flourish, you need to water it. So I want you to think rest is water. But if the roots can't receive it, it just runs away, right? So let's get rid of our tree. So I want you to think the roots, if we can't water them, you're not going to really move forward, right? So that's why the same advice keeps failing, right? It's aimed at the branches and it's not reaching the root. So again, if this resonates, please put something in the chat. And the next point to think about is the language that we're using. Now, the language, the words that come out of our mouth really send energy to our body. So if we're sending negative words into our body, the same with thoughts, the body's going to feel that negativity. But also our mind learns by repetition, right? So if we say the same things over and over and over again, it just accepts it. So it takes it on as that belief. So if your language is, well, I'm just someone who's always busy, that's just me. Or, I can't relax, I'm not very good at sitting. Or, well, it's because I'm the one that everybody comes to. I mean, they might kind of be true, but that's because you've made them your beliefs. and that's it in your identity, aka the roots of your tree, right? So that's not describing a preference, that's describing an identity, and that's really important. So until you work at that identity level, you're going to keep overriding every attempt to slow down. So I just want you to think about the words that you say to yourself. You know, as soon as you start owning something, especially if you say something like, oh, my anxiety, or my you know, whatever your illness might be, or I'm this, I'm that, you're just reinforcing that belief. But remember, a belief is just something that you believe. So if you believe this, you can believe this instead. But it takes time to change that belief. And if you can do it at the root, all the better. But eventually, by repetition, you can change that belief. So by just acknowledging your thoughts, the words, you can have great progress in trying to break that cycle. I'm not very good with my mic, am I? My arms are too animated and I keep clunking my mic. If I had to have my arms tied around my back, I'd be speechless, wouldn't I? Anyway, so what identity resonates with you? Chuck it in the chat for me. Do any of these resonates? Do any of these resonate with you? Right? Maybe you're resonating as the achiever, or the strong one, or the one that needs to be in control, the one who holds it all together. Who knows? Just have a think about it. So, what am I going to teach you today? As you know, I like to teach you things so that you can go out into the world, and maybe today's the first day that you have listened to the show. Maybe this is the first action that you've heard me say. But if that's the case, go back and have a look at some of the other shows and see if there's some other actions that you could do that would be really, really useful. So today's one, I'm going to call this the signal source check. I'm going to explain what that means. Literally, it's 2 questions that you're going to ask yourself. And you're going to ask yourself these whenever you feel that these strengths, do you remember these ones that we've talked about, / behaviours, start to kick in. So part 1 would be understanding what's the signal, right? So we're going to name the behaviour that you're doing. It's not the story about it, it's the actual behaviour. So an example might be, I'm checking my emails again, even though I said I wouldn't. Or I've just said yes to that. Actually, I meant no. And I really don't have capacity, but I've just said yes. Maybe it's feeling guilty for leaving on time. Maybe it's feeling guilty for not leaving on time. And then part 2 is what's the source? So ask yourself, what does this behaviour protect me from feeling? Not what does it help me achieve, but what does it protect me from feeling if I didn't do it? Now that might be something like, I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. I'm feeling like, well, if I slow down, I'm lazy, or I'll be unreliable. Maybe I'm going to lose that control. Maybe I'm going to feel rejected or abandoned. I mean, it could even be that, how's that going to impact my career, right? But I want you to remember that the behaviour is the signal, but the feeling underneath is the source. And the source is where your identity patterns live, in your subconscious, all right? So let me walk you through a few scenarios. But before I do that, I just need to have a quick drink. And a cough, sorry. As I was saying, I'm going to walk you through some scenarios. Now, scenario number 1, and again, please let me know if any of these resonate with you. You're about to leave the office and it's 6 p.m. Lots of people are still at their desks. And you feel that pull to stay. Maybe you should send that other email. Maybe that shows I'm more committed, right? Now that's the signal. That's the urge to stay late when you don't need to. Now, the source is, well, if I leave, they'll think I don't care as much. I'll be seen as less dedicated and less valuable. That's the identity talking. The one who earns their place by being the last one standing. All right. Scenario number two, someone offers to help you with a project and you immediately say, no, I've got it. I don't need help. Even though you know you're drowning. Now, that would be the signal refusing help when it's offered. And the source would be, well, if I accepted help, I'll be admitting I can't handle it, right? And I'll look weak and I'll lose my position as a capable one. Now, that's the identity talking. That's the one who never needs anybody. Again, does that resonate? I've done it again now. Now I'm really broke my again. So once you see the source, you have a choice, right? You can keep running that old pattern, or you can let that behaviour go and see what happens next, right? You don't have to fix anything in that moment. I want you just to see it, just to acknowledge it. And maybe just seeing it for the first time will be enough to crack that pattern. And as I always say, right, the first stage is about awareness. If you've been living your life without even noticing any of this stuff, then just, just bring that awareness in. That's going to help. Remember, maybe you're the one that changes that cycle. So when you start catching that signal and naming the source, something changes. You start living your life a little bit more calmer. Maybe you don't see that white knuckling anymore because you can actually rest a little bit now. Maybe you stop feeling like a fraud for having limits. Maybe you even stop trying to prove yourself in rooms that you already earned your place in. So you start making decisions from what you actually are now, not from the identity that you built to survive. So you're living your life with an updated identity. And as you know, this is the work I do with my clients through my identity box rewind method. Now, if we think of that tree again, we're going to the root. We're not trimming the branches, we're going to the root. So we work with a part of you that's terrified of what happens if you stop, terrified if you slow down, terrified of what people are going to think of you. That's the part we want to go and find, that identity. Because you don't heal this by becoming less ambitious. You heal it by teaching your system that your worth isn't dependent on constant performance. Right? Now, the behaviour that you've been rewarded for are signals. Your body has been whispering, like we said, or maybe it's been shouting, but you've not been listening. So your action for this week is to pick one moment when you notice yourself doing that high performer thing. And what is that? Well, that is staying late when you don't need to. That is saying yes when you mean no. That's, I don't know, maybe checking your phone when you're supposed to have switched it off. Maybe it's opening your laptop at home when you said you wouldn't, right? Maybe it's refusing help. Maybe it's about taking too much control. Now, remember, all of these things impact each other, whether it's at home or at work, because if you're staying late when you probably shouldn't, what repercussions do you have at home by staying late, right? If you're in control too much, that's impacting work. Maybe you're making your colleagues feel that maybe they're not good enough, or maybe if you've got children, maybe you're making them feel like they're not good enough, right? Because it's all that learned behaviour. And this is why it's so important, but it is easily remedied by updating your identity. So just a quick recap then. We're going to run the signal and do a source check. Name the behaviour and ask what is protecting you from feeling. And just write it down. You don't have to fix it, you just need to be aware of it. But if you do want to fix it, then you can start working on yourself, okay? Now, you hear me talk about my game plan upgrade call. So this is what I offer, really. It's a 45-minute free call, and it's an opportunity for us to get to understand what's happening in your identity and working out a game plan of how we can upgrade that. And obviously, if you want to come and work with me, that's amazing. If you don't, you'll always go away feeling invigorated. You'll have tools, you'll have tips. But either way, it's about making that small change. So how I do these is I have a wait list. So what you need to do is just drop your name onto my wait list. I'm just going to drop you a QR code, and I am going to drop you a link that you can just use as well. Because if you're watching this on your phone, then it's obviously quite difficult to do, isn't it, when you're using the phone and you've got to try and QR code. Hopefully that's the game plan. Excellent. If that's not for you right now and you want to do something different, I have got a lovely calming audio, right? The evening upgrade it's called, and I'm going to drop you a link for that. It is totally free, and it's with love from me to you. And if you're maybe struggling to go to sleep at night because your mind doesn't switch off, this is for you. If you just want to calm your mind and body anytime in a relaxed way, this is for you as well. All right, it's totally free. So in the chat now, you have got the link for the game plan upgrade, and you also got the link for the free audio. And I'm just going to turn that QR code off, and you've got the QR code if you wanted that as well. So I'm just going to start wrapping up today's session, but let's have a look in the chat to see if there's any comments in there. I don't think there is at the moment, but please do have a look. Okay. Now, before I wrap up for today, there's no comments in the chat at the minute, but maybe you will when you watch it on a replay. I just wanted to think about a few questions that you might have going on in your head, right? So you might be genuinely thinking that you love work and that's why you can't switch off. Now, I don't see what I do as work, right? Because I get to do what I love every single day, but just because I love it doesn't mean that I shouldn't switch off from it. So loving your work and being unable to stop are different things. And if you can't switch off, even if you want to, that's when the signal hits. All right. Now, some people say to me as well, how do I know if it's burnout or it's just busy season? Well, a busy season doesn't last forever, does it? Because it's a season. All right. So if it goes on for months and months or even years, then it's definitely not a busy season. That's the way it is. So you need to understand that this is leading to burnout, all right? And that's when you can do that signal and source check. And even if you do that signal and source check and nothing comes up, that's fine too. Just give it time. Because when you're new to this, it takes a while for you to actually start accepting that you can do it. I was a nightmare before. I couldn't listen to my body at all. But over time, it is just practice. So even if nothing comes up right now, maybe it will when you stop thinking about it. But just take that few moments for yourself just to stop. Maybe just close your eyes and just take time just to acknowledge what's going on. And I promise you that is the first step to making change happen. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now. I've been Julie, and I hope you've enjoyed this show. And please go and watch some of my other shows. Please go and subscribe on my channel, Milliside Therapy and Coaching. Give us a like, put any comments in, make them nice, but I promise I'll come back to you with comments where I can. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week, every Wednesday at 11:30. Take care, be safe, and let's start acknowledging what's really going on underneath. Bye for now.